MKUltra, the CIA's mind control experiments. In the early 1950s, the CIA launched one of its most disturbing covert operations, MKUltra. Designed to explore the limits of human control, the project involved administering drugs, most famously LSD, along with electroshock therapy, sensory deprivation, and psychological torture on unsuspecting subjects. Many victims were U.S. citizens, including prisoners, psychiatric patients, and even ordinary people who had no idea they were part of an experiment. Some participants suffered permanent psychological damage, while others died under mysterious circumstances. One of the most infamous cases was Dr. Frank Olson, a U.S. Army scientist who was dosed with LSD without his knowledge and later plunged to his death from a New York hotel window. The CIA called it suicide, but decades later, evidence suggested he may have been murdered to keep him silent. The program only came to light in 1973 after a massive document purge was botched and some records survived. A Senate investigation revealed the shocking scope: 149 sub-projects at 80 institutions, many without their knowledge. MKUltra exposed how far a government could go, even against its own citizens, all under the guise of national security. Tuskegee Syphilis Study. From 1932 to 1972, the U.S. Public Health Service carried out one of the most unethical medical studies in history, the Tuskegee Syphilis Study. Over 600 black men in Alabama, mostly poor sharecroppers, were told they were receiving free health care for bad blood. In reality, doctors were observing the effects of untreated syphilis and deliberately withholding treatment. Even after penicillin became a widely available cure in the 1940s, the government continued the experiment. The men suffered blindness, mental illness, and death. Worse, their wives and children were also infected. The participants never gave informed consent and were kept in the dark for 4 decades. The truth only surfaced in 1972 when a whistleblower leaked the story to the press, sparking public outrage. A later investigation revealed how deeply institutionalized racism fueled the project. The government finally issued an official apology in 1997, but the legacy of Tuskegee's betrayal continues to haunt public trust in medical institutions to this day. COINTELPRO. Between 1956 and 1971, the FBI ran COINTELPRO, a secret counterintelligence program designed to infiltrate and destroy groups the government considered subversive. This included civil rights organizations, anti-war activists, and leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. The FBI wiretapped King, sent him blackmail letters urging him to commit suicide, and tried to turn the public against him. Other targets included the Black Panther Party, the American Indian Movement, and even feminist organizations. Agents planted informants, fabricated evidence, and incited violence, all while publicly denying their involvement. The program was finally exposed in 1971 when activists broke into an FBI office in Pennsylvania and leaked documents to the press. The revelations were staggering. Thousands of Americans had been illegally surveilled and harassed simply for their political beliefs. COINTELPRO revealed how easily a government agency could operate above the law, crushing dissent in the process. It remains a chilling reminder that democratic institutions can be weaponized against their own citizens. Operation Northwoods planned false flag attacks. In 1962, as tensions with Cuba escalated, the U.S. Joint Chiefs of Staff drafted a stunning proposal called Operation Northwoods. The plan called for staging acts of terrorism against American citizens and military personnel, then blaming Cuba to justify a full-scale invasion. Ideas included hijacking planes, sinking boats of Cuban refugees, and even conducting mock funerals for fabricated casualties. The document explicitly suggested a series of well-coordinated incidents to create the illusion that Cuba was attacking the United States. President John F. Kennedy flatly rejected the plan, but the mere fact that it was seriously considered at the highest levels of government shocked those who discovered it years later. Declassified in the 1990s, Northwoods showed how easily public opinion could have been manipulated to start a war. It left many wondering, how many other proposals like this never saw the light of day? Iran-Contra Affair. Arms for hostages and rebels. In the mid-1980s, the Reagan administration orchestrated a complex illegal operation that became known as the Iran-Contra Affair. Senior officials secretly sold weapons to Iran, then an avowed enemy, hoping to secure the release of American hostages held by Hezbollah. The profits from these arms sales were then funneled to the Contra rebels in Nicaragua, who were fighting the socialist Sandinista government. This was a direct violation of U.S. law, as Congress had banned funding the Contras due to their record of of atrocities. When the operation was exposed in 1986, it triggered a political firestorm. Investigations revealed that top U.S. officials had lied to Congress and the public, shredding documents to cover their tracks. Although several officials were indicted and some convicted, most sentences were later overturned or pardoned. The scandal showed how far government officials would go to pursue their agenda, ignoring laws, ethics, and democratic oversight in the process. The Downing Street Memo, fixing the facts for war. In July 2002, as the US and Britain were gearing up for the Iraq War, a secret British intelligence memo was drafted that would later become infamous as the Downing Street Memo. It stated bluntly that the intelligence and facts were being fixed around the policy to justify invading Iraq. The memo suggested the Bush administration had already decided on war and was cherry-picking evidence about weapons of mass destruction to sway public opinion. This was 9 months before the invasion and contradicted public statements that diplomacy was still an option. When the memo was leaked in 2005, it confirmed the worst fears of war critics. The rush to war had been deliberate and deceptive. The Iraq War went on to cost hundreds of thousands of lives and destabilized an entire region. The Downing Street Memo remains a powerful reminder of how governments can manipulate intelligence to push catastrophic decisions, and how those decisions can reverberate worldwide. The Manhattan Project, a secret that changed the world. During World War II, the U.S. government carried out the Manhattan Project, a top-secret program to develop the world's first atomic bomb. At its peak, the project employed over 130,000 people across multiple secret sites in the United States, Canada, and the UK. The secrecy was so intense that even Vice President Harry Truman didn't know about it until he became president after Franklin Roosevelt's death. Workers often had no idea what they were building. They were told only to complete their assigned tasks. The project succeeded, culminating in the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki in August 1945. These attacks killed over 200,000 people and ushered in the nuclear age. While the Manhattan Project ended the war with Japan, it also triggered an arms race that continues to shape geopolitics. It remains one of the largest and most consequential government secrets ever kept. NSA mass surveillance Snowden's revelations. In 2013, former NSA contractor Edward Snowden leaked a trove of classified documents that exposed the true scale of the U.S. government's global surveillance programs. The leaks revealed that the NSA was collecting vast amounts of data on phone calls, emails, and internet activity from both U.S. citizens and foreign leaders. Programs like PRISM gave the government backdoor access to major tech companies, while others tapped directly into fiber optic cables carrying global communications. Snowden's revelations sparked worldwide outrage, with critics calling it the most significant violation of privacy in modern history. Allies like Germany were shocked to learn their leaders' phones had been tapped. The disclosures led to lawsuits, new legislation, and a global debate about the balance between security and individual rights. Snowden remains in exile in Russia, but his actions permanently changed how the public views government surveillance. Project 112, SHAD, chemical and biological weapons testing. From the 1960s to the early 1970s, the U.S. military secretly conducted Project 112 and its naval component, Project SHAD. These tests exposed thousands of unwitting service members, and in some cases, civilians, to chemical and biological agents. The tests were carried out on ships, in remote locations, and even in populated areas to study how weapons would disperse. While officials claimed the agents were harmless, later evidence showed that dangerous substances like sarin and VX nerve gas were used. Many veterans developed serious health problems, but the government denied their illnesses were connected to the tests for decades. The truth only emerged in the 1990s when documents were declassified, forcing the Pentagon to finally admit what had happened. The cover-up left a lasting scar on those affected and raised troubling questions about how far governments will go in the name of preparedness. UFO secrecy from Roswell to modern UAPs. For decades, the U.S. government dismissed reports of unidentified flying objects as weather balloons or imagination. But in reality, they were secretly investigating. The infamous 1947 Roswell incident was the first major flashpoint. The Air Force initially claimed it had recovered a flying disc, only to backtrack and say it was a weather balloon. This fueled decades of conspiracy theories. Declassified documents later revealed programs like Project Blue Book, which investigated thousands of UFO sightings. More recently, the Pentagon confirmed the existence of the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, AATIP, and has released videos showing unidentified aerial phenomena, performing maneuvers beyond known technology. The secrecy surrounding UFOs has led many to believe governments know more than they are admitting. Whether it's advanced foreign tech or something truly unexplainable, The mystery remains, and it's one of the longest-running cover-ups in history.